Technology is crazy. I finally got my buddy Danny Jones, the CEO of EG Metals, to carve out some time for a podcast while he's in Dubai, of all places. We've done a lot of business over the years, and I always enjoy talking to this guy about life, our history, and why we both love the scrap industry. Enjoy. It's official. I finally got Danny Jones locked down for about an hour to sit down and do a podcast, another Zoom podcast, because you're over in Dubai, and I'm over here in Idaho. So Idaho and Dubai is officially connected via Zoom. This is Danny Jones with EG Metals. I consider you a friend, not just a guy I sell scrap to. So for me, man, I love interviewing my friends just because there's like a certain just a certain chemistry that when you get to hang out and bullshit with your friends, like sitting around at the bar having a beer. So thanks for taking the time, bud.
Hey, I appreciate having me. I mean, we've been wanting to do this for a while. So, I mean, and I was going to come out to Idaho, and here we are in Dubai and doing a podcast from Dubai to Idaho.
I know.
So
I love it.
It's a shorter distance from Portland to Idaho.
I do. I sell a lot of scrap to a lot of different people, and it's a super like relationship driven business. And but I think back, and I was trying to remember the first year we started doing business, and I want to say it was like 2006. Is that right? 7?
6 or 7, it would be
7,
my
maybe?
guess. Yeah. I think that's when we kind of met and we kind of hit it off right away.
How did we meet? I can't even remember. Somebody asked, how did we meet?
I think it was Mike who introduced us, I believe.
Kirschman?
Mike Kirschman, yeah.
Okay.
So I think he was the one who introduced us, and we kind of hang out. I mean, we had our group of Northwest guys that are hanging out, and that's how we hit it off. So I mean, we had a lot in common. I mean, I think at that time you were just taking over, and from your dad, and you're coming on like full swing. Energetic, excited, right?
Take down the whole world, and then like, all right. Eventually, you kind of settle in, in life, and you figure out what your niche is. When you're young, man, you're ready to conquer everything.
That's a good part, right? You never settle in. You're full swing always, which is good.
I know. I don't have much of a slow. I don't have on a something like a lawnmower have the turtle speed and rabbit speed. Like I'm always at rabbit. Like let's go.
You're like me. I just can't. When it comes to our business, I mean, it's always it's an exciting business. I mean, our business is always evolving. I'd say. I mean, it's changing all the time, and there's something happening always, especially when it comes to the export side of the business. I'm sure it's the same with commodity market in general. It's just it's an exciting field. It's just not every day is something different, right? I mean, either China market opening or China closing or India market, or like the market's changing, and it's always exciting. So
I mean, and one thing, I mean, we'll go into like your history a little bit, but like one thing I always appreciate about you is you're driven like I am. Like you have that rabbit speed on at full speed all the time. But what most like quote unquote brokers have never done is they've never had their own scrapyard, right? They've just bought and sold and kind of taken their margin and just kind of dealt with taking the middle piece out and kind of moved along. But one thing I always appreciate about you is you actually did open up your own scrapyard at recycling facility at one time there in Hillsboro, Oregon, right?
That's right. So the way I got into the business is just purely by accident, I would say, right? Like, I started in the business in 2001. I'll give you a little bit of background, so we might as well
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as a
Give us the history of how you ended up in this crazy industry.
Exactly. So 2001, I go to. I'm originally from India, and I go to India with my dad, and so got there. One of my dad's friends said, "Hey, I want to buy used laptop and computers from U.S."
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, that's not bad. So at that time, I was doing another business, newspaper business, and I wanted to get out of it because at that internet was booming and nobody wanted to buy newspaper, and that business was kind of declining. This is when I was in my early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So I decided that's not a bad idea. There's a lot of, I mean, this is when back at the time of like 386, 486, all those computers. So got into, finally was able to find some computers and was able to ship the computers, but not to India. I mean, it was, even though we started with India market, they kind of
Yeah.
backed out. We ended up shipping the products to Romania. We found somebody to buy. So this was back in 2000. Then from there, uh, e-scrap was just evolving, and we
Hmm.
didn't know what to do with scrap. So I had one of my guys from Hong Kong came by for 2 years. I mean, I used to give my scrap for free, didn't know what the value was, didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So just he would come around like, I'll take the scrap because I didn't know what to do with the scrap laptop or like the rest of the, if it's not reusable, I don't know what to do. So I'm like, okay,
Uh,
please take it away. Little did I know, I mean, those are value, right? 2 years later,
yeah.
I like, then I'm like, okay, there got to be somebody out there like me,
Yeah.
not having knowledge. So I started, purchasing scrap from other uh, reusable guys, and we started that e-scrap business. Developed a market for
What was that, like 2004, probably?
2003
Yeah.
was when we realized that there was a market for scrap uh, e-waste and things like that. So, at that time, I mean, e-waste was just getting involved. Like
Yeah.
nobody knew what to do. I mean, this is back in the day, CRT time, right? Like we would, I mean, a CRT was worth like $1,000, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So then from there, I kind of, in 2006, like you said, six is when I first got into non-ferrous scrap, started buying non-ferrous. I mean, my first
You had a
one was,
warehouse. Is that when you rented or you bought a warehouse and you were kind of consolidating it, or?
so the warehouse. Yeah, we had a huge warehouse. So what I was doing at that point, we were doing a lot of export of metals, like non-ferrous, slowly starting into non-ferrous from the waste that we generate, like computer wires and things like that. So then uh, my guys in China who was buying it, they said, "Hey, we want to buy non-ferrous." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So
Yeah.
I approached. My first purchase was from Calbag from Doug Reese.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about non-ferrous. Just go there, and my guy in China, he said, "I'll buy. Uh, just get me whatever you can get. Just buy it at whatever price they're asking, and just ship it to me." So I just bought
All
whatever
the
I
good
did.
old days. Just buy it, send it, we'll figure it out.
Exactly. So I went and bought a bunch of stuff, shipped it out. He said, okay, just keep it going. Like, so I would mark it up like 5 cents, 10 cents, just no problem. I mean, by the
Yeah.
time the container arrived, the market was going like it wasn't like a rocket ship like we are on right now.
Yeah.
By the time it was there, I mean, the copper price is up like 15, 20, 30 cents. So I mean, the guy who was purchasing, he was happy. Any price we say, he would take it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. It was a good ride until 2008 hit, right? So we all know that story.
Yeah.
Then from there, I mean, kind of, I enjoyed the brokerage side of the business a lot more. I was not too excited and thrilled about the yard side because
Yeah.
me, it was like it kind of held me back. I feel like, I'm a more of a people person, so I wanted to enjoy talking to people and just being out there. I dip my toes in it, and said, if I didn't try it, I can't sit here and say, hey,
Yeah. What year? I was trying to think. What year did you put that yard in? Was it 10?
it's
9, 10?
2010 we put the yard in.
Uh huh.
And, I had it for almost 6 years. We let it run it for 6 years, and I said, hey, listen, I'm spending too much time on regulations and putting water treatment system and maintaining the yard. This is not. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
we
because
put
that's not really. You're not necessarily in operations. I mean, you're more of a, your sales, your relationships. Like that's your bread and butter, and it was taking you away from your bread and butter of what made you successful.
Absolutely. So me. I mean, I like to just call it people and just talk, and it's just build that relationship. I enjoyed more than that. I mean, that's still my. I mean, I'm a relationship guy, like just like you are. You and
Yeah.
I. Like, I mean, ever since we started business, I mean, it's just smooth. Like,
Yeah.
and especially in the brokerage side of the business, that's most very critical when it comes to doing business. Just have that relationship and maintaining that relationship.
Well, and I think
So
sometimes things that get lost, like it's great to have a good relationship. I mean, I think relationships are built on trust. And I think that's what is kind of missing sometimes is people are like, oh, I want to do business with you. I want to do business with you. I'm like, okay, like I understand, like, especially on the brokerage side, I get hit up a lot, about, well, we want to send it here and send it there and do this and do that. And there's a level of trust that's involved when you load a container and you send the docs, and it's a two-way deal. It's not just, I trust you to pay me, because most people are, yeah, we'll pay you, but then you're like, okay, but you can pay me in 3 days or 30 days or whatever it is, and then what's the claim situation look like on the backside? But there's a level of trust that even the broker has to have with the guy loading the container, right? I mean, there's a lot that goes into, selling a load of scrap that starts in Idaho and ends up in, Malaysia or India or China. I mean, it's not as it's not as, there's a lot to it, I guess. It's without.
absolutely. I mean, I mean, it's just not just you send something and you just fit it and just collect that money. I mean, there's a lot more involved. I mean, you got logistics, you got trust. I mean, some just keep in mind. I mean, as the scrap price increasing, the value of the material is going up. I mean, so it's like you're dealing with $100,000 deal. Somebody sitting in Malaysia is like saying, "Okay, send this, and we'll pick it up when it, with the 10% down." So as a broker, I mean, you build that relationship on both sides, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, uh, they are also sending you funds. They're trusting that you're going to load the proper materials that they purchase. So, when it comes to brokerage side, the trust is the biggest thing, and having that trust between the supplier and the buyer, and keeping that uh, going smoothly, it's very important.
Yeah.
And it's just people think it's easy. Oh, anybody can be a broker, but it
I've
takes a
been
lot.
Yeah, I've been super fortunate. I mean, our accountants. We have a pipe business and some other stuff that we do, and we've been really fortunate never to get hung on any large amount of receivables. I mean, you even through '08, and I attribute a lot of that to I'm very choosy who I do business with. Right, I mean, there has to be some, the financial side, of course, but I'm very picky about who I sell scrap to, because, the '08s happen, the 2015s happen where the market is crap and people are just trying to survive. And that sometimes when people are trying to survive, they do stuff that isn't exactly, on the up and up all the time. And
Exactly.
so I mean, our accountants and I have that conversation a lot. Is You know, like Brett, you, and because we have with our bank, right? They're like, you guys have been very successful in not, you know, having to write off any bad debts or anything. I'm like, no, because I'm very picky about who I do business with.
Exactly. I mean, picky is. I mean, you have to be picky because you're dealing with the scrap is not cheap anymore. You know, like back in the days when the copper was like, you know, 2006 and 2005, it was 90-cent copper, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, now you're dealing with a $3.50 copper. I mean, a motor back in the day was only probably it's only worth 10 cents.
10 cents.
Now
Yeah,
that same motor, the same amount of copper is
yeah,
worth
40 cents or
right?
whatever that number is.
Yeah. So of course you got to be. I mean, it's a lot more investment,
Yeah,
and also it's an open market. Back in, I mean, 2000s. I mean, the margins were high. Uh, I mean, nobody knew it was just the internet was starting. I mean, nobody
hmm,
knew the price. Now it's just an open market. It's just black and white. I mean,
yeah,
everybody knows motor is steel price. I mean, you can pull up a price of steel anywhere in the world, and it'll be published in 10 different websites. There's no hidden secrets anymore, right? It's an open.
exactly. Yeah,
It's
there's no
pretty
there's
transparent.
there's no secrets to pricing anymore. But I mean, I think I get fucking 10 price sheets a day from random, people I've never even sold scrap to. Like, hey, here's the pricing. Here's the pricing. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it comes down to like who do you want to do business with, who do you trust, and what's the relationship you have with the person that you're dealing with. I mean, that's the bottom line. It comes down to these days. I mean, me and 10 other people will have it. Who probably at
Yeah,
the same number. Just like who are you comfortable with doing business with? And
yeah.
what's your
So give me you had the facility in Hillsboro for 6 years. After you had the facility in Hillsboro, then what was the next step for you?
So we had some. So we moved our shredding operation. We had an e-scrap shredding operation. So we moved that from Hillsboro to Dallas, Texas. Then in 2000, so we set up. We had a good setup in Dallas, and in 2018, I had an opportunity to sell out from that business, and so uh, I'm glad that I got out of got
Yeah,
out of my physical operation and just started doing brokerage full time. And for me, brokerage has always been good. I get to travel, like I'm in Dubai. I'm not just stuck in one place like Oregon's.
yeah,
I get to travel quite a bit. Even though with a lot of restrictions in traveling, I traveled to Europe last year 4 times. And Dubai and other places, India. So it helps me build that relationship with the people, meeting with people, shaking their hands. It's just, when it comes to that, I kind of old school and just like
yeah,
to go meet people, shake hands, sit with them, chit chat. I think that's how I built a business, and it's long lasting. I mean, once you build that relationship, I mean, it lasts for a long time,
yeah. As long as you
and
take care of it, right? As long as you manage it, and like you said, you do the. I view it as like it's like a marriage. Like if you don't take care of it, then it just kind of separates and it does its thing, and you got to go off in your separate directions, right? But um, and which sometimes is good. Sometimes that's necessary to move on, and things change, people change. It's time to go do something different. Like exiting the actual physical operations and focusing on the brokerage. But the relationships that are important are the ones you maintain. They're the ones that you take the time out and you say, all right, and I know you're busy tonight. It's Friday night for you. It's Friday morning for me. You're like, I know there's probably some other things you'd rather be doing than a podcast, at
right
eight
at night
at 8:30 at
podcast.
night. Yeah, but I mean, but we take the time out and
Yeah.
and have the conversation, shoot the shit, and and that's what keeps those relationships still going, you know. And I don't even know. I was sitting there thinking, shit, you and I haven't. I mean, we haven't. We did a couple containers here recently, but there for a while it was like a stretch where we didn't do any business for months and months, and but we
Yeah,
still talked. We still
we
bullshitted, you know.
we always talk. You came down to Portland. You visit. The thing is, like sometimes, like you said, I mean there was some trucking issues and things like that, logistics sides. I mean, it wasn't working out, but
Yeah,
we kind of slowly. I mean, I've been pushing you to figure that part
I
out.
know, I know. It's on my hit list, you know.
Uh, so at least we're making some progress, you know. So,
Hmm.
but I mean that it's just like you said. I mean, you called me up many times and say, hey, "Look, man. I mean, we don't do any business, but we have this relationship. One of these days, I mean,
Yeah,
that's it's just for me. It's just whether we do business or not. Just for me, having somebody who I can just throw some ideas, get some feedback. I mean, that's more important. I mean,
yeah,
and business comes. It always comes along.
yeah.
Either today or tomorrow. I mean, by just building that relationship. I mean, you're always gonna. Business will always follow you. I mean,
I
no
think
matter
that's
what.
one thing I've always appreciated about the scrap industry, and I'm sure other industries have the same. But I mean, the scrap industry, as big as it is, it's still pretty small in the fact that most people kind of have a general idea of who's who in the zoo, and kind of even on the brokerage side, or especially like in the U.S. I mean, we kind of know who the players are as far as who's in which region, and who is is good to do business with, who's a little bit more on the suspect side. But I mean, it's a super relationship driven business, and the fact that it is old school because you're talking about physically trading commodities. It's not just a paperwork game. Like, this isn't you're not trading futures over here every day. You're actually taking physical product and moving it from one city, one state, one country to another, and it just adds a whole different element to it.
That's right. I mean, like again, it goes back to like the more the price is increasing. I mean, we're doing a lot of hedging these days. I mean, it was never like that before. Like, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't do that much hedging. Now,
Yeah.
almost. I mean, a lot of the customers are requiring us to hedge, even for like lead, zinc, uh, copper.
Are they
Definitely.
so? Explain to me that. So your customer that you're selling the material to, they want you to hedge it.
Correct. So we work on a lot of our transactions these days are on a formula basis. So we would have to hedge, say for
Okay.
example, aluminum copper radiators. So we would buy it and we would sell it on a formula base, so on a percentage basis. So I would give you a fixed price
So
based
let's say
on
you
today's.
you give me $1, right? Just
Correct.
roughly say $1 for a pound of AC rads. You're then getting a hold of that, and you're hedging it through an outside hedging company that has nothing to do with the end consumer.
Correct. So we would call our broker in New York and we would hedge the copper content of that load. Then we would take the possession from the suppliers and we will take it in all the way. So we would hedge it for almost 2 months, 2.5 months. Then our buyer will call and say, okay, I want to fix the price today. So we would just fix it based on that.
Okay.
So it's the trading side of the scrap business is getting a little bit more complicated. So
Yeah.
it has to be. It's not like before. I mean, before it was okay. I'll buy for something for $1. Okay, $1.03 or dollar
Yeah.
five. Okay, done. Hopefully, don't claim, and it is done. So those dates are gone.
Yeah. So what's
Uh,
driving the need to hedge? Is it the big swings, or is it the high prices? Like, what's pushing the need for your end consumers to require you to hedge?
So it's both. So when you look at the transit time from, say, for U.S. to India, it's almost like 60 to some, especially West Coast, like almost like 60 days, 65 days transit time to. So that's one issue. I mean, and we are having this massive swings, and the copper price keeps moving up.
Yeah.
So plus, like a country like India, they also have like currency fluctuations. So they don't want to take two risks. I mean, the currency fluctuation and the copper. I mean, the commodity swing. So they're they're requiring us to hedge. So in a way, it's safer for as a broker myself. Say it's also good thing
Yeah.
in if 2008 happens, knock on wood. Like I mean, at least you have the hedge going and you're covered in that sense, and you have some protection that way. So, uh, but it's also it's more costly. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, you have to figure in the hedging cost into the purchase price because,
correct.
I mean, somebody's got to eat that, eat that part of the deal, which to keep everybody safe. And I guess at the end of the day, if you're dealing with a broker that is hedging, then you're probably more comfortable because you know that they're covering their ass and everybody in theory should be covered so everybody can along the line will either receive money or product at the price that they've been quoted, right?
Exactly. So I mean, it's a little bit more protection by hedging the commodities. I believe it's just. I mean, you have to do it these days. I mean, the more the copper goes up, it has to be done.
So I mean, if you don't want to say, it's fine, but who do you use? Like, do you use a few different companies to hedge your copper units?
No, I've been working with a company called FC Stones up in New York. So
Okay.
they've been my broker for many years now. So I just call them up and pretty much say, hey, I need to. So the only thing about when it comes to hedging is like you have, say, for example, you're buying a load of talc and it only contains 47% of
Copper.
copper in it, and now you got to go out and hedge uh, X amount of copper.
Like
Uh,
roughly
so
20,000 pounds in a 44,000 pound can, right? Or
correct.
45.
So you got to. I mean, so it's a lot more. It's making things a lot more complex. It's just like you got to track it. There's no a like a pound per pound hedging.
Yeah.
So uh,
Because
it's
you
either
have to
over
hedge it
or
in
under.
blocks. Like the smallest amount, the smallest block that you can hedge currently?
So we use Colmex and LME.
Uh-huh.
Is 25,000 pounds, and
Okay.
LME is 25 metric ton per
Okay.
contract. So depends on and depends on which. I mean, I've been using quite a bit of Colmex these days, just because it's a smaller
Yeah.
lot size. It's a
Because
little
then you
bit
can
more.
go buy one container or whatever, or and you're not sitting there. Okay, well now I got to buy two. I got to buy two containers of talk so I can hedge, you know, all the 25 metric ton at a time and try and make that deal work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's just so that's the hedging part. I mean, that's just making things a little bit more complicated for us, but it is part of the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
That
what do you see? I mean, because you are well traveled and you see, a lot of shit that a guy like me, who's kind of over in my little corner of the world, doesn't see. What do you see going on as far as the industry? How has it changed from the export side from 2000 and say six when we started doing business? How has that dynamic changed as far as geography? Where are the materials going, or what's up and coming? I mean, what are you noticing out there?
that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So when we first started, everything was almost all metal was going to China, right? China was it, you
Yeah.
know. Then from that, I mean, China started, they're putting their restrictions, and they kind of said no to scrap. Then the other markets kind of evolved. I mean, India is a very strong market. When China came down, India became very strong in the scrap industry and scrap market, and they picked up the slack. And you got people. I mean, Malaysia got picked up, Thailand, Taiwan, Korea, Japan. I mean, it kind of even Pakistan is a good market. Even Middle East, we send shipments here also. Even Europe. So it kind of, when China slowed down, kind of all these other markets, smaller markets, kind of came back in
Opened
and
up.
kind of opened up. So which was a good thing, because I mean we were kind of rely heavily on China, you know, and and I think that was a good thing that happened. I mean, we can't just rely on one.
Well, it's good to have options. I tell people all the time. I mean, your AC radiators are only worth what somebody's willing to pay. You can publish all the pricing you want, but until somebody pays you $1 a pound for that material, then it's not worth. It's only worth $1, right? And the way you get the best price, even on like, is you have to have multiple people that are interested in those AC radiators, right? So I tell people the same thing on the steel mill side, like the domestic steel mill. I go, the domestic steel mills have eaten very well the last few years because the export market has been fairly non-existent. Whether it's political policies or just lack of growth out in the emerging markets or whatever. But when the export market opens back up, like you're seeing right now, Turkey's starting to buy a lot of scrap, and if China comes into the market like people are talking about, with a heavy hand, then the domestic steel mills are going to have to readjust, I think, their thought process and say, okay, like what are our margins that we're willing to take? Because now people are going to have options. They're going to have options of places to go with their scrap. That's not just necessarily two domestic steel mills or whatever the case may be. They're going to have, they can go to ports. They can put them in, for the big bulk hauls. They can go containers. They can go domestic. So I'm excited for that. So I mean, not to kind of to digress, but like go back on what you're saying. I mean, with China going out in 8 or 9 before they came back in like what 11, 12, that opened up the more people that could actually take that product.
Exactly. I mean that's. I mean, China kind of stepping back for the last few years kind of opened up a lot of market. I mean, that was a good thing for the. I mean, it was kind of painful in the beginning. I mean, people were like, "Hey, what do we do? I mean, where is this going
Yeah.
to go?" But that's the good thing about our industries. Like people figure out. I mean, like a lot of the Chinese that was in China, they moved their factories to Malaysia and they set up in other parts of the world. And it's just it's like a water and it just found its way and it evolved again. Just that's the exciting part, finding new market
Yeah.
and creating products going into different direction, different parts of the world it's
What
always
do you
exciting.
see? What do you see as the up and coming markets out there that aren't really necessarily big markets right now or today, but are you can see in the future really being that bigger players?
I still think India has a lot to offer for in our industry. I mean, India is going to be a big player still. In China, if they open up their scrap industry, I mean, like scrap coming into China without that much restriction, that's still going to be a big market. They
Yeah.
need the material, right? And Pakistan is a big market. I mean, their labor is cheap and they have a good industry. They have growth and they also have a good relationship with China. They buying products. They're melting it down and sending back the finished goods back to like ingots and stuff like that back to China. So
Mm.
Pakistan is a big market. Uh, India, Thailand. I mean, same. It's happening with Thailand and Malaysia. I mean, I think overall, 2021, knock on wood, like I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's looking very positive,
Good,
and
good.
doesn't
I like to
matter
hear
what.
that from somebody that is out there and beating the streets and seeing what's going on in the world. That's a positive sign. I'll knock on wood on my side too, just in case. Because I mean,
I mean,
nobody predicts COVID-19 or some of this crazy shit that's been going on. But
COVID 2021, right? I mean,
oh,
like no.
yeah,
So I mean, I think it doesn't matter which political parties get in. I mean, I think scrap is going to be strong. I mean, the reason is, I mean, dollar's weak. We're reprinting,
yeah.
we're printing like nonstop. So as long as that's happening,
Like, oh,
I
you
think
get a trillion, you get a trillion, you like a trillion too. Like, we'll just fire up the press and we'll just keep papering it over.
keep it going, right? So I think these days trillions. I mean, we passed that billion mark. Now
Yeah.
we're into the big T. So as long as we're printing, the press is going. I think the price is going to go up, along with the commodity price is going to move up. I think.
So
Uh,
you don't really deal that much on the ferrous side, right? I mean, very
we're not that big into ferrous. I mean, but we are slowly looking into shredded 211s and stuff like that.
yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of demand coming
Why
up, especially.
why is it just because you wanted to focus on non-ferrous? Is that why you chose to kind of stay away from the ferrous side, or like what's the difference? I mean, from the brokerage side, when you think about it, I mean, why is there some people that really focus on ferrous and then some people that really focus on non-ferrous?
I think for me, I was just always been into non-ferrous side of the business, and kind of stick to what you know the best and just try to develop that market. But uh, I mean, there's there's plenty of opportunity for me to diversify into ferrous, but
Yeah,
especially from West Coast, uh, containerized ferrous going to Far East and stuff like that was not that. It was not possible, because you have
yeah.
so many guys, in our neck of the woods that are loading uh, vessels, and you can't compete. And also the shipping costs from where we are, it's just
And you're
it
starting to
doesn't.
see like even on the West Coast now. I mean, people are starting to pay more attention to like the Taiwan price, right? The Taiwan ferrous price. I mean, I'm starting to see a little more momentum, or at least more discussion about that price and what that looks like containerized, and what those numbers are looking like. Because then now you don't need the bulk port to export, right? I mean, especially if you're producing a shred product. I could see where the tide could really shift in the next this year and going forward if the export market stays strong because the U.S. dollar continues to weaken. Over time we're going to have our bumps and our ups and downs, but generally speaking, I don't see a reason why the dollar is just going to gain a ton of momentum anytime soon. So I could really see the export ferrous market getting pretty hot.
The ferrous side, I think, see what's driving the ferrous market, I believe, is China and Australia is having some headbutting going on, so they're not buying that much iron ore coming in, and so that is one thing that's driving up the price of ferrous, and they need as much scrap as they can to keep up with the demands that they have going.
And they're trying to move towards like 30% scrap, as far as in feed for the steel mills, right? So at 30% of how many million tons they melt, that's a big number.
That's right. So, I mean, as long as China is going to allow import of scrap steel coming in, the price is going to be high. I mean, it's just going to go up, and that's why we see that hike in almost like $100 hike just in a month, right?
Hmm.
Uh, because now you got a big giant player in the. I mean, it came in like China, who has big appetite,
Yeah.
and that's gonna. I mean, now you're just competing for the same scrap. I mean, everybody has to raise their price, so which is a good thing for suppliers, and you can. It just means like you have more options. I mean, you have
And just the
the
present,
price.
yeah, just the potential of China coming in has driven, because
Correct.
they really haven't really came in and bought much yet, right? So it's like just the thought, just the idea in the back of Turkey or whoever's mind, right? The Malaysia or India, wherever the material is going, like just the idea, the concept that they could be coming. I think that's what's driving the demand as well.
That's right. I mean, plus, I mean, we had I mean, there's still lockdowns happening in a lot of the states that we're in. I mean, California is locked down,
Yeah.
Portland is, Oregon is locked down, Washington is locked down. So there's not much activity. I mean, like before. So the scrap also is kind of limited in intake of scrap is also limited. I think. I mean, I don't know what you're seeing out there.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
not seeing as much, like, like there's not as many big demo jobs, big demo projects going on right now. You're not seeing, I was telling somebody, we were in our meeting, we did like our like a quarterly managers, a meeting, and just yesterday, and we were talking about pricing, and I was kind of just trying to give them my crystal ball, which isn't that, it's a lot of times very blurry, like it's just like a basic ass guess. But I was trying to tell them, you have to think, I've been through a couple of these good runs in scrap, and when in 2000, say 7, 8, when it really ran hot into 8, the amount of scrap coming in at the prices what we're paying today was off the chain. I mean, we were hundreds of customers over the scale a day. Our yards are so full that we had to shut our yard down for a week just to process scrap. We wouldn't even buy any anymore because it was dangerous how high the piles were getting stacked. And
right.
I said, now you look around our yards today, and with the pricing very similar to, say, 2007 and early '08 before it really got hot, there isn't that volume. That volume doesn't exist like it did in those years.
That's right. So that run kind of cleaned up a lot of scrap. I
It did.
think. I mean, we had I remember we did the car for old
Cash
car
for
like
cash for clunkers.
Casper bumpers,
Yeah.
yeah. So those kind of things. I mean, people were pulling stuff from that was sitting for like 20 years, in the backyard. I mean, they were pulling that thing. I mean, they were bringing it in. I remember those days. I think that kind of cleaned out a lot of the backlog or whatever we had for many years, I
Yeah.
think. And I mean, when the price get depressed, I mean, people don't go out and
No.
bring in stuff, right? I mean, because it's not worth for them to go out and collect scrap
They're
and
not
bring
even
it
get.
in.
They're not gonna cover the cost of the diesel in their pickup. Like it ain't. It's not worth their effort or their time, and so it gives you a couple years to pile up. But even then, like where you have some of these, metropolitan areas or these whole states like California, Washington, Oregon, they're locked down. I don't think there's a bunch of big demo projects going on in creating that bonus P&S scrap. You're not seeing that material, and if the manufacturing facilities are slower, so they're getting less manufactured scrap. So I think that's definitely a component of the price surge lately.
Correct. Yeah, I think you'll. I mean, you're not going to. I think the volume you're not going to see like what we saw in 2008, like you said. I mean,
Yeah.
but the price is good. I mean, I think with the price being where it is, I mean, you're going to get a steady flow. I think you don't want to see the price going down. I think I mean, to get that flow to continue, you got to have the price where it is to see that volume coming in the door. But, so I heard some exciting news that you got how many yards you have going on these days? So
Oh man, we got our hands full, man. I said, as long as I can find good people, man, I'm willing to put a yard in. You know, that's the. I mean, we feel. I tell people this. We had in our meeting yesterday. I was like, we aren't. I mean, we aren't really in. I mean, we're in the scrap business, but I mean, we're truly in the customer service business. You know, and like I look at you and your business and like how you've built it over the years, and like you don't do anything different on the brokerage side than 100 other brokers, right? Like as far as the actual like brokerage task, but you do it different from a customer service standpoint, right? So you're not really you're in the brokerage business, but it's secondhand to you're in the customer service business, and that just comes with getting good people and you doing what you do. And we're the same way. So yeah, we have facilities and more facilities coming because we take customer service absolutely seriously, you know?
yeah, it's just that's what it comes down to, you know. That's what it comes down to. I mean, like customer service and good help, like good uh, good helping hands is also a big
Yeah.
one too.
How
You know,
many?
so
So where you have a couple offices now, right? That you're kind of working at, not you personally, but you have some trading offices out there. Where are they located?
so we have a trading office in India. We have a trading office in Mexico, and we also have our office in Portland. So that's where we're
That's
focused.
awesome,
So
man. Yeah,
so
that's like I said, dude. Like one thing I love about talking to you is like you and me. We go back, but like we can both look at each other and say, I remember when it was just two guys just trying to get together and trying to move some. At the time, it was some e-scrap and just
yeah.
whatever we could get our hands on to try and to make move down the road. So like I can always appreciate where you've come from and how awesome of a business you've built over the years.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, so does you. I mean, like, yeah, I think you coming into taking over from your dad. I mean, I remember you coming in. I mean, your dad was. I mean, you guys are third generation, right?
Yep.
Uh, that's what's impressive. I mean, you know what the statistics say? It's like third generation doesn't usually make it. You
Yeah,
know,
third generation we usually fuck it up.
by the time
It's
you
still
get
early.
it, I
It's still early. It's still early. I can still could fuck this deal up.
no, I mean, but what I'm saying is, it's amazing that what you have accomplished. You know what I remember. You know where in 2006. I mean 2006, seven. I mean like it was just within 12 years. I mean I mean the growth that you guys had is pretty
Yeah.
tremendous. Yeah. Hats off to you, and we appreciate. I mean, your dad is awesome. I mean he's always your dad and mom has always been there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you took it up to the next level,
I think
which is awesome.
you and I were both pretty blessed with good parents, and I recognize that not everybody has that, and my parents have been retired for a while now, but I still the fact of being raised by good parents and having good influence growing up and kept my mindset correct and they kept me on the right track. I mean, really, like I owe them as much as I owe anybody. I mean, and so like it's easy for me to go to work, and I posted this a few times on LinkedIn. Like the fact that I get to write my parents a paycheck and they can go do whatever they want, like that to me makes it easy for me to get up in the morning, right? Fuck it. I mean, I don't want for a lot. I mean, shit, this might be the nicest t-shirt I own. And fucking but I like getting up to go to work, and I get stroke them a check, every couple of weeks and be like, hey, like I appreciate you giving me a shot.
Yeah, I mean I mean, so in a way, I mean, we're blessed, like you said. I mean, it is absolutely a blessing to have. I mean, parents guiding you through. I mean, and that's just you just want to pass that down to next generation. I mean,
I
it's
will
just good.
say this. I will say this though, like, and I want to end on this is our business is a lot of word of mouth. Like, who do you do business with? Who do you like? Who do you trust? And whatever else. And one of the reasons why I like to do these podcasts is just to talk about the industry with people, but I like to let people know like who the real genuine scrap players are out there. Like the people that give a shit about the industry, but B, the legit business people that if somebody asked me, would you sell scrap to who would you sell this load of scrap export to? You know, one of the first guys I would point to is you. Like we've done business for a long time. You never nothing and anything, everything's been on the up and up, you know, or even more on the up. So I always recommend, you know, the right people say, hey, this is who I've done business with and it's been great. So for me to put my word on it and to put my stamp, I mean, you're as solid as they come, dude.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. And that means a lot to me. So, so are you. I mean, exactly. I mean, our friendship is, like, I can call you up anytime and chit chat and like, hey, what do you think of this idea? Or what do you think of that? Or I pick your brain. That's always, it's always good. I consider as your personal friend,
Yeah.
especially in the scrap industry and so appreciate having me on.
The next podcast is going to be in person, and we're actually gonna.
Exactly.
I won't be drinking coffee. I'll actually be drinking like a
You're
beer or like a cocktail.
And it's sure not going to be on a Friday night either.
No. It'll be like Friday afternoon. All right, bud. Well, I appreciate you.
Ready to have these. Take off my mask and just go back to the normal. Like I'm ready for a conference. Actually,
Yeah.
I think I think we can vaccinate enough people, we can have a ISRI conference in 2021.
And it's at least in 2021 they'll be back in Vegas, so it'll be good.
Yeah,
that's a good spot to have a conference.
Are they still going to have that, or
in 21 they said they are going to have it because it's in Vegas. So I think one of the reasons why they canceled 20 was because it was in California, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy cancellation. Like you can't do anything in California now. So they're hoping, I think 2021 back in Vegas it'll be a go.
Vegas, you got plenty of room, so it's spread out, right? I think everybody will be on a blackjack table or somewhere,
or a bar, or eating some food. It'll be something. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time. Go enjoy your Friday evening, and looking forward to doing this in person.
All right, thanks for having me.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna end it now. Hey, I'll give you a call. I'm gonna jump my pickup. I'll give you a call. And shoot the shit.
All right. Hope it was good.
It was good, man. Shit, it was great. I mean, it is what it is. I'll call you here in a few minutes.
No problem.